In the last stream, we were working on setting up this automation right here for unlimited nutrient paste via the digester and in turn unlimited nutrient bars. And as you can see between streams, I have done a little bit of work on the base here, and I have reconfigured this just a little bit to make it a little bit nicer. Before we had it kind of digging into the floor, it looked a little haphazard. Now it's the same setup. We still have two hopping botany pots with melons feeding into the digester, which is filling up on melons, producing nutrient paste, feeding itself with that nutrient paste, and then secondarily sending the nutrient paste down to these compacting drawers to be turned into nutrient bars. And you'll see that we now have over 5 stacks of nutrient bars available to us, which is going to make it so much easier for us today to work with our blood altar. Before we do get started with that though, as I mentioned, I have kind of done a bit of base work. I don't love it. I'm probably going to tweak it quite a bit more going forward, but for now, it does give us more space. I've kind of pushed everything back. It did take a little bit of time with the water wheel and create setup to kind of move it all back a few blocks, but we do now have more space to work in today's episode. And you may be thinking, Isaac, why have you made these pens smaller? These cows do not have enough space. However, I have developed a new space-saving technique that's going to allow us to fit a lot more of these cows in a much smaller space. And if we kind of finagle our way in here, it turns out that we can really maximize the vertical space available to us with basically all of our animals here if we just stack them. And currently, if we're not going to use them for anything, I feel like, oh, it turns out I can't stack more if I have the wolf on there. I see, that's what's stopping that one over there as well. But you can stack these really as much as you like by the looks of it. It doesn't seem to have a limit. And look at that. They now have so much space to roam around. You know what? You can even do it with the pandas as well. You can just pick them up, shift right click with the carry on mod, especially if you can get into the pen. Excuse me, my friend. I would like to, there we go. And yeah, you can just make them nice and tall. Look at this. And so now it's essentially like we have one cow or 2 cows and 1 panda, and they have all of the space that they need. Perfect. So now that that's taken care of, what I want to work on in today's stream is I want to start on the pain section of the quest line. Specifically, I like to work towards getting a simple storage network up and running because it is going to make it so much easier for us to access and craft with all of the items inside of our colossal chest and also inside of our other storage drawers as well. And so to get down here, the first quest is a simple mob farm. This is not strictly necessary, you know, as a pass through. Like, we could just skip straight to the soul snare, but we wouldn't then get credit for doing the quest. And so real quick, I will complete this quest right here, even though we're not going to set up a mob farm today. The 3 quests here are not too difficult for us to do. We need 1 mob fan, which is just 4 stone slabs, 4 iron, and a block of redstone. I think in terms of what we're missing there, it might just be the block of redstone and the stone and slab form. It is indeed. That gets us a mob fan. You can use this to move mobs around easily. We then need the mob masher, which requires a block of iron, along with these 2 iron spikes. The iron spikes require more blocks of iron, so we'll go ahead and take at least 2 more of those. And then we need 3, 6, 7, 8 iron swords, I believe, to make this happen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. That should be enough for 2 of these iron spikes. And then as long as we have our diamonds in the chest, which I believe we do, we should have basically everything we need for the mob masher. Nice. And then finally, we need the absorption hopper. This requires yet another block of redstone with 3 seared bricks and then 1 lightning charge. The lightning charge we do have. I made another one between streams because I was using it to duplicate dirt for our new platforms over there. However, the seared brick, I think, is something that we probably don't have much of, if any, left. We've got 5 seared bricks here, and then we have a couple of seared components from the smeltery, which currently isn't up and running. Do we have any grout in here is my next question. If not, it's really not the end of the world because we do have sand, gravel, and clay, and so should be able to make some grout fairly easily. And as we've seen previously, we can just run that grout over to our smoking setup over here and get ourselves a decent amount of seared brick, which should then allow us to make the absorption hopper. And 22 seared brick later, we can make, ideally, 4 of these. Fantastic. And that should be everything for the absorption hopper. Nice. So we'll come back to all of this stuff. I'll put it in my backpack for now. We'll come back to all of that when we look at setting up a mob farm. For now, though, the next quest wants us to make a soul snare. It says, throw it at any mob and kill it to get demonic will. So the soul snare is acquired with string in the blood altar, requires 500 life points, and string we can get by putting 4 sticks into the mechanical mixer. Again, not a particularly difficult recipe for us. Let's do one of these and one of these, and then let's take our sticks, and I'll throw all of these into the mixer for now. A little bit extra string is fine, and again, because we are now growing wood with our dark oak botany pot here, we don't really have to worry too much about running out of sticks in the near future. Back over here, we've got at least 500 life points in our blood altar, and so it shouldn't take too long for us to get that first soul snare. And then you can throw these at passive mobs, which I think is going to be ideal for us. Let me try and deconstruct this tower. You do have to be careful. If you try and pick up the bottom cow, all of the other cows will come crumbling down. That does remind me, though, that at the very end of the last episode, we did get our pig up and running, and the plan was to right-click that pig with a piece of iron to see if we do get a pig iron ingot from it. So if I do this and I do this, that doesn't do anything. Like, I can't right-click the iron onto the pig, or seemingly I can't. Let me try. Can I feed you the iron? Does that work? That doesn't work. Okay, so I still don't know how we get pig iron, but we'll figure that out later. For now, what we should be able to do is we should be able to throw the soul snare at the cow. I don't think that worked, because normally it has particle effects around it. Let me get one more soul snare real quick. Thankfully now it is a lot easier for us to refill the blood altar because we have these nutrient bars again that allow us to refill our saturation and therefore our hearts very quickly. The Twitch chat is telling me I have to hit the pig with the iron. So if I do... Oh! Okay, yeah, that totally works. That's some pig iron. I still don't necessarily know what it is we're trying to do with the pig iron, but let me try again with the soul snare here. Maybe I missed my my first throw. Let me grab a little bit of wheat out of the chest here. Let's see if we can't lure the cow closer to the middle of the platform, because right now he is kind of dangerously close to the edge here. All right, let's try that again. If I take the soul snare and I throw it at the cow, there we go. You'll see it has this blood magic effect for another 13 seconds. And so we want to kill the cow within those 13 seconds, and it should drop for us the demon will. Nice. That is the next quest complete. And now we can use that demon will to craft the alchemy table. The alchemy table is going to be useful for us because it's going to allow us to start crafting runes. So alchemy table is this guy right here. We have everything we need to make it, including the demon will. For now, let's go ahead and put this down right about here. Don't know why it goes down that way. That's fine. Let's do it like this. And in here, we should now be able to craft things like the arcane ashes. So the arcane ashes here are made with redstone, gunpowder, white dye, coal, and a weak blood orb. The weak blood orb is not used up. The blood orbs are basically never used up in basically any of the crafting recipes. So it should just be a case of getting these other items. None of this is too difficult apart from gunpowder, because we don't have access to gunpowder currently. Now the question is there a way for us to make gunpowder? We could look at making it with charcoal, exotic dust, and blaze powder. Blaze powder we also don't have. However, there is a conversion recipe up on this side of the quest book, which I guess we could start working towards, because we are going to need to do this as we progress forward anyway. Over on this side, we're working towards the alchemy table. For that, we need high, medium, and low covalence dust. And I think that all of those should be pretty straightforward. The low covalence dust is super easy. It just requires charcoal and cobblestone. Unfortunately, you can't use regular coal there, and so we are going to have to find our furnace, which should be in here somewhere, and get that thrown down. For now, let's say right about here, we'll throw in the wood, and we'll throw in, I was going to use planks there, but I feel like we might as well use some coal. Oh, the Twitch chat is totally right here. I completely forgot that you can wash zinc to get gunpowder, which makes me think that we probably should have some gunpowder. There is one here. I would have thought we would have had a lot more of it, although I guess, to be fair, we've not really been using that much zinc. If I take a stack of it here and I move this smoking setup, I put the water back down, that should get us some more gunpowder. To be fair, though, we only need the one. And so with that in mind, we are still going to need to get the covalence dust. We'll come back to that later on in the episode. With that in mind, though, we should now be able to just grab our composter, which I believe is hiding out over in the corner there, along with a couple of saplings, let's say, to try and get another bone meal for the white dye. And at that point, I think we should have basically everything that we need. Boom, and boom. So there's the white dye. And with that, I think we're just missing a single piece of coal. And so back over here, we can put the weak blood orb in the blood orb slot. We can then put in coal, gunpowder, white dye, and I believe redstone. And you'll see right now it says Soul Network error, insufficient LP in the Soul Network. So right now we've not bound our blood orb to our network. And you'll see right here that it requires 500 LP over 200 ticks, which is 10 seconds, to complete this craft. The way that we bind the blood orb to us is simply by right-clicking with the blood orb, which will basically do the same thing as the sacrificial dagger does, but I believe that's going to put the life essence into the blood network. So right now, it's kind of hard to see, but I think there are 200 LP in here as we get for each tick that we do of damage. You can also put the orb into the blood altar. You'll see at the top we have 1.85 buckets. If we put that in, it's going to start to drain the life essence out of the altar and transfer it into our soul network, which is kind of like the wireless life essence that we can use via our blood orbs. So if I put this in here, hopefully it's going to work because we now have enough life essence inside of our weak blood orb to complete the craft. And once this is done, the next quest here is for the apprentice blood orb, which is kind of fine. We do need 10,000 LP to make that happen, which I believe is the current capacity of our altar. And so really all we should have to do here is stock up on nutrient bars, make sure we eat those regularly. That does complete the 48 nutrient bar quest from the last episode. And we probably want to make sure the altar is full before we start trying the craft, because if you run out of life essence before the craft is finished, then you end up wasting life essence, which is not ideal. That did get us gunpowder, which is very nice indeed. Let me quickly craft all that zinc down, and we'll get rid of it into the chest for now. But real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to eat these nutrient bars and deposit life essence until we get to 10,000 millibuckets worth of life essence in the altar, which we're already at 5,000. I really don't think it's going to take too long. And not too long later, boom, we've got 10 buckets in there, and wow, that is very fast indeed. And we now have an apprentice blood orb. Nice. This opens up quite a bit of crafting to us. But one thing I do want to do first here is I do want to look at getting another of the arcane ashes, because we can use those arcane ashes to get runes, and the rune that I'm specifically after is this guy right here, the divination sigil. Sorry, sigils, not runes. The divination sigil here is going to tell us how many life points our altar can currently hold. We know it's 10,000, but it's also going to allow us to see how many life points are in our blood network, because right now we're kind of just guessing as to how many life points are in there. And so once again, we'll throw in the white dye, we'll throw in the redstone, we'll grab one piece of coal, and we'll also grab some of the gunpowder that we just placed in here, and I'll also middle click here to organize that inventory. Back over here, boom and boom. That's going to get us a second arcane ashes, and we need to combine that now with a redstone and a blank slate. So redstone we have, I don't believe that we have any blank slates left in our system here. Never mind, we totally do. Not that it would have been a problem if we didn't. We can make more of these very easily with rocky dirt. But now that we have this, I believe what we want to do here, in order to make the divination sigil, is we want to right-click the arcane ashes onto the ground. That's going to throw down this circle. And then from there, I believe that we want to right-click with redstone and then with the blank slate. So if I right-click with redstone and then with the blank slate, that is going to begin moving, performing whatever ritual is necessary. And once this is done, we should get, ideally, a divination sigil. Nice. And we can see that if we right-click on the altar, it tells us how many life points are in here. Currently 0. It also tells us our current tier and our current capacity. But if we right-click in the air, it tells us the current amount of LP inside of our blood network. And if I were to quickly do one of these and we right-click again, you'll see it's now gone up to 496 LP in the blood network. Pretty nifty stuff. The benefit of the higher tier blood orb, by the way, is that it can just access more of the LP in the blood network. So I believe the blood network is shared between all the blood orbs, but the weak blood orb can only access, I think, like 5,000. I could be wrong on that, but it can only access a few thousand LP versus the apprentice blood orb, which can do higher tier crafts that require more LP. It just allows you to store more, and it's also required for certain crafts. Going forward here, we need to make ritual stone, which I don't think is actually necessary again for the creation of the magician's blood orb. This again, is made in a tier 3 altar, which we do currently have. However, it requires 25,000 LP, and as you've seen, we do only currently have capacity for 10,000, and so ideally, we're going to want to make some runes of capacity to upgrade our altar and allow us to store more life essence. So the runes of capacity are actually fairly easy to make, thankfully. It's 3 buckets, 1 blank rune, which we've seen before is just stone, a blank slate, and any blood orb, which you do get back. And back here, we just need more stone and an imbued slate, which is the upgraded version of the blank slate with an extra 2,000 LP in the altar, which we can then upgrade to the imbued slate, which is a tier 3 slate with an extra 5,000. So this is the expensive part for the rune of capacity. But thankfully, the runes of capacity, I believe, are quite good. If we check out the Sanguine Sentium here and we go and type in capacity, the rune of capacity increases the capacity of the blood altar by an additive 20% per rune. And so our current capacity is 10,000, which means if we were to add 1 of these runes of capacity, that would take us up to 12,000. The one after that would take us up to 14,000, then 16,000, and so on. There is the rune of augmented capacity, which is even better here, but it is a fair bit more expensive. It requires a demonic slate, which needs a tier 4 altar, which we currently don't have. This is better in that it is multiplicative and not additive. The idea there is that the size of the altar gets bigger the more runes you have. So instead of calculating the percentage based on the base capacity of the altar, it calculates the percentage based on the last size when you added the last rune, if that makes sense. So instead of going from 10,000 to 12,000 to 14,000, it would potentially go from 10,000 to 12,000, and then you'd calculate 20% of 12,000, and then go from there. It doesn't matter for us at the moment. What matters currently is that we can make the runes of capacity, and if we want to get to a capacity of 25,000, we're going to need quite a few of the runes of capacity, because we ideally are going to want to get to, I guess, 26,000, which would mean, I think, 8 runes of capacity in total, which I think should be doable for us. For that, we're going to need 24 buckets. That's probably the easiest part of the endeavor. We do have, I think, enough iron to make 24 buckets here. We do indeed. And then after that, the actual tricky part of the recipe is going to be getting 8 imbued slates and potentially 8 blank runes. The 8 blank runes should be fairly straightforward. As we saw before, we can take the rocky dirt here and we can just run that through the altar. Again, now that we have the nutrient bars, it should be fairly easy for us to get a large amount of LP here. One thing that we could also look at doing whilst we're already working towards getting the runes of capacity is we could look at the other runes available that augment the altar in different ways. One of the best ones for us using our self-sacrifice is the runes of self-sacrifice here. These increase the amount of LP that you get every time you use the dagger. So the default rune of self-sacrifice here, if we hold control, it will open up the page inside of the guidebook. It gives us a bonus 10% additively per rune. And so right now we get 200 life points per rune. If we were to use one of these runes of self-sacrifice, that would take us up to 220, a second one 240, then 280. You get the idea. That then stacks with the effect of the incense altar to get us even more as well. These are also not too difficult to make. Again, do require some reinforced slates, which are cheaper than the imbued slates, along with glowstone. Glowstone's really the only tricky part to make there. We have made glowstone in the past, and we definitely can make more. We use the lightning charges and water. The lightning charges really not too difficult, actually. They're made with the blank slates, lapis, nether quartz, and water. And so what I think we probably want to do here is maybe we'll start by making quite a few of these runes of self-sacrifice. We'll put those around the outside edge. It doesn't matter where you put the runes, by the way, but there just so happens to be 8 runes here, and I think we'll use these 8 runes for our runes of capacity to get us up over 25,000 worth of LP in capacity, and then we'll use these out here to throw down our runes of self-sacrifice, and we'll make really as many of those, I guess, as we can, and we'll see about getting our numbers up in terms of how much we get per life point. And given that the runes of self-sacrifice are easier to make, I think we'll start with those. So we'll grab some lapis, we'll grab some nether quartz, and we'll just kind of throw all of that with water, of course, into our mixer. We'll throw all of this in. Obviously, we're only going to need 10 of each there, but that's fine. Right now, our unlimited water is over here. I do want to move that at some point in the not-so-distant future. And unfortunately, for now, we are going to have to put each bucket of water in manually and kind of wait for it to finish. But it shouldn't take us too long to get a fairly decent amount of blaze powder, which should get us more than enough glowstone to make quite a few of these runes. stone, we can make very easily, of course, using our cobblestone generator. We just throw the stone down over here. If we do, again, one of these, I definitely should eat, especially when working so close to the campfire, because if I don't, there's a non-zero chance that I do get burnt, and then if I'm on 1 heart, I might just die. So let's do, of course, one of these to get us a large amount of stone. Let's continue to get our blizz powder over here. And once we've got our 10 blizz powder, we can, of course, plunk those into lightning charges. And then it's just a case of loading this guy up over here with water and then moving those lightning charges over to get the glowstone. So that's 10 glowstone dust, enough for 5 runes of sacrifice. Let's see if we can't make these happen. So rune of self-sacrifice, I need 5 more blank slates if that's going to happen. That's actually fine because the blank slates are made just so quickly inside the altar here. And so with 5 blank slates, we should be able to make 5 blank runes. We should have more than enough stone to make that happen now. Let's make sure we do this and this. Fantastic. And then with 5 blank runes, we should be able to make 5 runes of self-sacrifice as soon as we get 5 reinforced slates. So for that, we're going to need 1 more set of rocky dirt. That's fine. Getting 5 more blank runes here is not going to be a problem. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll do the 6th one just because I have it. The slightly trickier part is going to be upgrading those from blank runes to reinforced slates because that requires 2000 LP per. And unfortunately, unlike the recipe for the blank slate, this one does take a little bit of time, which is where there's another rune that could potentially help us as well, and that's the speed rune. The speed rune just increases the speed at which the altar works, allowing recipes like this to be done much faster. And to make these are even easier than the rune of self-sacrifice. These just need sugar. And sugar, we can of course make from nature essence. And then once we have our first batch of sugar cane, we should then be able to grow it in much the same way. Wait, do I not have enough LP in here? I thought I did have. Oh no, I do have 2000. It's trying to make. See, what it did there is it tried to make the imbued slate. So it went a bit too far and tried to upgrade from reinforced to imbued, which is not what we want. We do want the reinforced slate, but we do want to keep an eye on it to make sure that we do get those reinforced slates. But as I was saying, once we get our first batch of sugar, we could then utilize the shifting mechanics to grow a very tall amount of sugar very quickly, and it should be very easy for us to get basically unlimited sugar after the fact. And so it also might not be a terrible idea to look at getting some speed runes as well, just to make things a little bit faster. For that, we would just want to get, I think, 7 bamboo. And also, let me put some stuff back into our system here. The divination sigil can go in my backpack for the time being. We probably don't need the pig iron at this very moment in time. The alkane ashes can also go in the backpack for now. And then getting enough nature essence here for the sugarcane should be very straightforward. Nice. I'm pretty sure 7 is right. And then if memory serves me correctly, I think it's something like this. For sugarcane, it is indeed. And then if we craft some sugar here, let's say 8, we should then be able to use that to make some speed runes. We totally can. If we wanted to make more, we'd need more blank slates, which again is just more of the rocky dirt. I'm going to make like as much rocky dirt as we can. We can always make more dirt and more gravel. And then over here, if we start putting these, whoops, I should not have let that fall into the void. If we start putting the speed runes in here, it should start making the altar just that little bit faster. What is the speed upgrade that we get for this? I don't think it's massive, unfortunately. 20% per rune increases the speed additively, so it's a little bit faster. Let's give it a try. Over here, if we fill this up again with at least 2000 and we throw in our other blank slate, it's definitely a little quicker. It's not super fast, and we could definitely do with putting more of these speedruns in to make it even quicker than it currently is, which I do think is worth doing. And so yeah, let me quickly go ahead and make some more speedruns, and then we'll also continue looking at getting the 5 reinforced slates to make the 5 runes of self-sacrifice. Okay, so a little bit more reinforced slate crafting later. We can now make 2 more speed runes, and I believe we should have what it takes to make the 5 runes of self-sacrifice. If I put these in here, for some reason it doesn't like to put all of the required stuff in. Are we out of stone? We're not out of stone. Again, it doesn't like putting the right items in. Let me keep shift-clicking this in. This is a little awkward, but it should hopefully get the job done, and it's also hopefully something that we won't have to deal with once we get our simple storage network up and running. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put down our speed runes in the 4 slots in the 4 cardinal directions of the altar here, like this. And then I've made an awkward number of runes of self-sacrifice here because we can't really put 5 down and have it look even. So I'll kind of factor in that I'll make more in the future. We'll start by putting 2 down on each side, and then we'll kind of finish it up, hopefully, at some point in the not-so-distant future with a few more to take us up to 2 on each side, and then potentially more in the future should we need them as well. But hopefully, this now should make it a lot easier for us to get the 8 imbued slates that we want in order to make 8 runes of capacity. So for that, we need 8 blank slates, which should be pretty straightforward. Again, let me make sure we keep up on the sacrificial dagger and the nutrient bars here, and then getting 8 of these blank slates should be very easy for us. And then it's just a case of running all of those through the altar and imbuing them with 2,000 life points to take them from blank to reinforced, and then another 5,000 to take them from reinforced to imbued, and we need to do that 8 times. But we should be getting a lot more life points now from each use of the dagger, thanks to those runes of self-sacrifice. And you know what? I might just go ahead and get the other 3 of those real quick before we focus too much on the runes of capacity. Okay, and a fair bit of knife usage later, we now have 8 imbued slates, which should be everything that we need for 8 runes of capacity. We're missing, by the looks of it, 1 blank rune, and I was thinking maybe a bucket as well, but I think all we should have to do here is just steal one of our pre-existing blank runes, of course, because we're going to move these anyway. Ideally, we don't want to lose them, and so you know what? I might even just, it's going to look bad, but we're not going to see it if we put some cobblestone kind of underneath, like this, and that way we can kind of just ultimine the runes. Fantastic, we get all 8 of those, and then we can use 1 more of those to craft up our last rune of capacity. And then if we place those runes of capacity around the center of the altar here, that should take us back to a tier 3 altar. But if we check again with our divination sigil now, it tells us we have a capacity of 26,000, and so we should be able to craft up a block of gold, like so. And if we can get 25,000 LP into our altar, we should be able to use all of that to convert this block of gold into the Magician's Blood Orb. The quest book does want us to do this quest here for the 4 ritual stones first. I'm not quite sure why it wants us to do that, but this just requires 4 reinforced slates. Again, not going to be a problem. 1, 2, 3, and we'll leave the 4th one in there. I'll get the 4 reinforced slates first, and then we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can get the ritual stone quest complete, and we can get the Magician's Blood Orb. And a fair bit of dagger usage. Again, later we now have the 4 reinforced slates, and we have 26 buckets worth of life essence in our altar. And so this is going to take a bit of time. It's a little bit faster with the speed runes, but we just have to wait for that to suck up 25 buckets worth of life essence. While we wait for that, let's go ahead and craft up these ritual stones, which we are going to need going forward, just not at this very moment in time. Although, actually, to make the ritual stones here, we do need rose quartz tiles. We need 4 of them. These are made in the stone cutter, which I believe we should be able to make. Are we really out of stone? That does make sense. We made a lot of runes today. Let me get another stack of stone cooking over here, ideally not with cobblestone next to it. And once we have the stone cutter, we then need to make the polished rose quartz, which is not too bad actually. It requires sandpaper, which you guessed it, is sand and paper, along with a rose quartz, which is made with just nether quartz and redstone, both of which are fairly easy for us to get at this point in the pack. And so let's go ahead and make, I think, just 2 of these. And then I did plant down the sugarcane. That is placed down over here. It does grow with shifting, but just nowhere near as fast as something like the bamboo. It looks like it's not working, but there you go. It does work just very, very slowly. And so we might have to put down like a few more sugarcane to get a decently sized farm going. Either way, back over here, we do have enough sugarcane to get paper. Sand plus paper is sandpaper. And then if you place the sandpaper in your offhand and hold the rose quartz in your main hand, you can then hold down the right mouse button, and that will sand the rose quartz into polished rose quartz. And then as long as we have the stone required, which we do, we can take that. And back over here, we should be able to make the stone cutter, like so. Throw that down, and then throw in our polished rose quartz to get the rose quartz tiles. You do get 2 at a time, which is very nice indeed. And so back over here, we should now be able to get the ritual stones. Fantastic. And ideally, look at that, we're done on our Magician's Blood Orb. Nice. So with the Magician's Blood Orb, we now have the ability to start looking at this simple storage network. For that, we're going to need a storage network route. I'm going to bookmark that like this. You can bookmark the whole recipe, but I find it easier just to click on the recipe because you can bookmark multiple recipes as well if you want, and then you can kind of like slide between them with the scroll wheel, or you can kind of drag them, but they're a bit of a pain to scroll between. You got to really go for it with the scroll wheel. If you don't go too far, it kind of only partly does it. Anyway, I prefer to just bookmark them here and then check the recipe as and when I need it. So let me unbookmark these. We'll throw them down into the abyss. Dispose here. There we go. Get rid of... Come on, let me get rid of both of those. There we go. Anyway, we need one storage network root. We don't necessarily need a crafting remote, although I do think it would be nice to have. We then need a storage request table and some network cable. So this guy right here, the storage network root, is the heart of the system. It requires 4 nether quartz, 1 magician's blood orb, and 4 network cable. The network cable is made with stone slabs, iron, and the magician's blood orb. So let's get a bunch of stone slabs. Those are going to be needed. Let's get a couple of batches of network cable. We'll go for 2 for now. 16 might get us there. Then the storage network root, super easy. The storage request table requires 4 regular crafting tables alongside the storage inventory, which is more network cable, some iron nuggets, and a dropper. The dropper is easy enough. Let me throw that into the chest. I don't know if we have any iron nuggets. We totally do. That gets us a storage inventory, and from there we get the storage request table. And so now all we need to actually get a basic simple storage network up and running is some link cable. I like to go for filtered link cable because it's not much more expensive than regular link cable. It just requires the observer here, which does make it slightly more expensive, but I think it's worth the extra cost. All we are missing is cobblestone. I rotated the drawer when I placed it back down so that we can access it without having to build a cobblestone pillar every time. And so back over here, let's do this. Let's do this. That gets us 4 filtered link cable. And the basic setup here is going to require that we move our crafting station, place down a filtered link cable onto the colossal chest core, and then from there, if we just place down our storage network root and our storage request table, we can now see all of the items inside of our colossal chest from in here, and we can craft just like we could before with the crafting station. But the benefit here, and I like to sort by items amount, and I like to go descending, so it shows the item we have the most of at the top. And I like to keep JEI search disabled. You can turn that on if you like it. But the big benefit for us is we can now search through here. So if I want grass, I can search grass. If I want gunpowder, I can search gunpowder. I don't have to scroll through all of these lines to try and find the few pieces of living flesh that we have. We can just search for them, and it should be easier. And also, hopefully, shift-clicking things like this in, if we had the required items, would actually go in. You'll see it put the orb in the right slot. It put the stone in. Before, it wasn't putting the orb in. It was leaving it in our inventory. It was a whole thing. But this should make our lives a fair bit easier. And going forward, if we want to connect more things to our network, all we have to do is throw down a filtered link cable and then connect that filtered link cable to the network root. And then in here, you can see now we have access to all of the nutrient paste and all of the nutrient bars from that drawer from within here. But of course, we can take it yet further if we get the crafting remote. The crafting remote here is what is going to allow us to access all of this wirelessly wherever we are in the base. To make it, we do need another one of these network roots, which means we are going to have to make some more network cable. That's completely fine. Let's do something like this and get 2 more batches of it. Getting another network root, super easy. Getting another storage request table should also be pretty straightforward. I think we just need 1 more dropper to make that work, along with some more crafting tables, ideally 4 of them, which we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, fantastic. That, I think, should be everything for the storage request table. It is. And then the tricky part here is the 4 sea lanterns. So the sea lanterns are made up of prismarine shards and prismarine crystals. And this is where, I believe, we need to pivot back to the covalence dust and see if we can't get the alchemy table. So the covalence dust, as we saw earlier, the first one, charcoal and cobblestone, easy enough. The second one here, the medium covalence dust, is 1 iron and 1 redstone, easy enough. And then the third one here is 1 coal and 1 diamond, also easy enough. We have all of that stuff. From there, in order to get to the alchemy table, we need a pink energy collector block. So for that, we have to go this way around. The amethyst essence is made by putting high covalence dust into the blood altar. So let's take that. How many LP are required here? We need 500. That is actually completely fine. We've got 1,000. Boom, done. Easy. Back over here, let me bookmark the alchemy table. We're working towards this guy. This looks a little tricky, but I think might be okay. So the reason we need this, by the way, the prismarine shards are easy enough to make. We can bulk haunt some lapis, and that's not too bad. Bulk haunting does require soul sand. However, we should be able to get soul sand, I think, with the nether essence that we can get elsewhere. But then we need fire essence as well, which could be tricky, actually. Although Demon Will does work in here, we might have to pull some Demon Will over some sand to get soul sand, actually. Demon Will, of course, we can get by putting the Demon Wills that we got earlier into the altar. That does get you one, is it 1 millibucket per will? Oh no, I think it's 1 millibucket per will quality, which is not usually one by default. So we might need a few Demon Wills to make the soul sand. But back over here, the tricky part is that we need prismarine crystals, and I believe the only way for us to get these currently is via the alchemy table. We can convert the prismarine shards into prismarine crystals, and that's where this alchemy table is required. Again, to make it though, we do need this energy collector. For that, we need some calcite. The calcite is easy enough, and in fact, we can make that right now. That's completely fine, and that's one of the reasons we needed the amethyst essence. 2 blocks of glowstone, also completely fine. 4 amethyst bronze ingots is going to require a tinker's smeltery, I believe, because the amethyst bronze is an alloy between copper and amethyst. The amethyst, I guess we can get by smelting amethyst shards, which we can get from amethyst essence. That is completely fine. That shouldn't be a problem. We would need some fuel, but molten blazing copper should get us there on that front. And then finally, we need the lava crystal. The lava crystal, actually surprisingly not too difficult. 3 more lightning charges, we've made these before. More glass, more rose quartz tiles, the magician's blood orb and the diamond. That's all fine. Again, you get the blood orb back. So this doesn't look too difficult. However, there are a few things that we're going to have to do to make it work. The first thing that we're going to have to do is get a decent amount more sand, gravel, and clay to allow us to make a bunch more grout. Because right now, I don't think we have anywhere near enough grout to make the size of smeltery that we're going to need to make this happen. Let's do this. Let's do this. And then if we want, actually, let's do that again with the remaining gravel, sand, and clay. There we go. Okay, this is 40. That's not too bad. But what we should probably do is go ahead and wash some more copper to get some more clay. And then, of course, we can use our cobble to get more gravel, and then our gravel in the front set of wheels here, because we do still have 2 to get more sand. All right, so 2 more stacks of grout smelted into seared brick later. We should be able to look at making a fully fledged Tinker's Smeltery. So we are going to have to initially reset up the old smeltery, that being the seared heater topped with the seared melter, and then the casting basin with the faucet. The reason for that is that we used our old smeltery controller to make our first furnace. So we are going to have to make this again. Thankfully, copper is now the ingot we have the most of, and melting more of it down shouldn't be too difficult. Let me put the fuel back in here. Let's put 1 seared brick in here, and then we'll probably put our fully fledged smeltery over here in just a second. We do need, I think, 1 more copper ingot smelted in there. Thankfully, this is pretty fast. And once that's done, we can build a fully fledged smeltery, which can burn liquid fuel like molten copper, which is then going to allow us to ideally make the alloy required here for this pink energy collector. So there is our smeltery controller. Let's put that smeltery controller right about here. We'll probably end up pushing this back. We'll build maybe another platform. But temporarily, you know what? I'm going to build this 1 higher up just so I don't end up losing things to the void. What I'll do is I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's going to be our base, and then what we're going to do is we're going to build the next level of it around like this. Normally, I'd build this in the ground, but I think what I'll do between episodes is probably move this a bit further back. For now, though, what we'll do is we'll do something like this. We're going to build a 3x3 smeltery. You can build these smelteries in a bunch of different ways. You can make a 1x1 that's tiny in the middle and really tall. You can make them, I believe, up to 9x9 in internal size, which is gigantic. For us, though, we're going to go with a somewhat classic 3x3 internal size here. For that, we are going to need some more seared brick. Not a problem. We have the ability to make more of it. Let's do this, and then let's also go ahead and do this. You can fill in the corners as well, by the way, if you want. The same is true with the edges as well. Where the cobblestone is here, you could fill that in as well, but it's not strictly necessary. The only thing that is necessary for us now to convert this into an actual working smeltery is a drain. This guy right here. That is just more seared brick and copper. That's easy enough, assuming that we can shift-click it in. I'm not quite sure why that's not shift-clicking in, but either way, there's the drain. And then we also need a tank as well, which is this guy right here. And this is going to hold whatever fuel we decide to use for the smeltery. Again, right now we don't have access to lava, and so I do think we are going to have to use the molten copper, which is also going to get us one step closer to fully completing, I believe, the first tier of the quest book. Because if we head back through here, up at the top, there is a quest to get a molten blazing copper bucket. We get this by filling a bucket with molten blazing copper, which we can get by mixing molten copper and coal in the basin and the mixer, and that's just copper ingots. That's easy enough. So back over here, what we can do is grab some coal, use that to heat up our blaze burner down here. Of course, make sure there's at least one copper in there. Heat that up. Once that's turned into molten copper, we are going to need more molten copper by the looks of it, because I think we need a full bucket's worth to make this happen, and it looks like you only get 90 millibuckets per ingot, which is not ideal. But if we can get a full ingot's worth of molten copper, we can then drop in the coal, and that should convert the molten copper into molten blazing copper, and we want to get a full bucket of molten blazing copper that we can then pull out using just a regular bucket to ideally allow us to fuel our furnace, at least for a little bit here. So that should be all the molten blazing copper that we need. Give it just a second here. It's working its way through. Fantastic. We can take that molten blazing copper, which completes the quest there, and we can put it in over here. Unfortunately, you can't make alloys in this setup, which is why this setup is required, the bigger smeltery. This bigger smeltery is now going to allow us to make the required amethyst bronze ingots. So I think ideally here, we might just make a block of amethyst bronze, because that saves us having to make an ingot cast. We could just pull directly into a casting basin. If we wanted to make a block of amethyst bronze, which we could then of course just craft down into the ingots, we would need 810 millibuckets of molten amethyst bronze. For that, we're going to need about 10 copper ingots, and by the looks of it, about 9 amethyst shards. That should be actually completely fine. Let's take some more high covalence dust, and I've got to get into the habit of using this now instead of using the chest. It's much easier. We'll take the high covalence dust, we'll take our sacrificial dagger, we'll do one of these, we'll quickly get at least 8 of the amethyst essence here. We'll then craft that 8 amethyst essence into amethyst crystals, and then we can go ahead and just put, oops, let's make sure we eat our nutrient bricks here to keep ourselves fully saturated and allow us to deposit more into the blood altar. But that should get us more than enough amethyst shards to make this happen. I'm just hopeful that our molten copper fuel goes far enough. So we'll craft this in like a standard furnace orientation. Perfect. And then we've got a ton of copper, as we mentioned previously. And so in here, we want to put 10 copper, or thereabouts, into here. That's going to start smelting, and it is going to start using the molten blazing copper to do that, and it should put that copper into the tank. It does. We'll do one more, and we'll also smelt up 10 amethyst shards as well. As those both combine in the smeltery, it should form the amethyst bronze alloy that we're after. It does. Look at that. And we've got 720 millibuckets of it. We need 810 millibuckets of it to make this work. There's the 810. Fantastic. And just like before, all we need to do now is move the basin over to here, near the drain. We can put the faucet down now onto the drain, like so. We can get rid of these two. These are not going to be required going forward. And then it should just be a case of right-clicking onto the drain to pull out the 810 millibuckets of molten amethyst bronze. That's going to go into the casting basin and should quickly cool into a block of molten amethyst bronze. And with that, I believe that we are one step closer to getting this remote, because that is everything for the amethyst. So now we just need 8 more glowstone and the lava crystal. And the lava crystal, again, seems pretty straightforward. We are going to need to get one more of the rose quartz here. Again, we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this to get us the tiled rose quartz. That's fine. And so that's one step closer to this. We then just need 3 more lightning charges on top of the lightning charges required for the glowstone, right? So each glowstone is 1 lightning charge, and so we need to make 8 lightning charges for the glowstone, plus an additional 3, taking us to 11 lightning charges, which in our case is 11 nether quartz. Look at that, we have the perfect amount for it, along with 11 lapis and 11 of the blank runes, which we're going to get, of course, from the rocky dirt. All right, so 11 lightning charges later, we can put 8 of those, like this, over on here. That's going to get us 8 glowstone, and I think that's basically everything that we need. In terms of the lava crystal, we should now have everything. We do. Perfect. That's a quest complete. Over here, I loaded all the water up ahead of time, and so we should have everything for 8 glowstone dust. We do indeed. That gets us 2 glowstone blocks, and so now back over here, we should have everything for the pink energy collector, Mark 5. We do. And back over here, that in turn should be everything for the alchemy table. We're just missing 2 Minecraft torches. Boom. And so now, the alchemy table is an interesting one. I'm going to put that down. In here, we supposedly can convert our prismarine into prismarine crystals. Now, to do that, we of course need prismarine. If we're going to get prismarine, we need soul sand. And as we saw before, it looks like soul sand is something we're going to have to get via the smeltery as well. So to get the soul sand, we want to pull out the demon will over sand. So I need 200 millibuckets of demon will. Let me go ahead and grab the string out of here. If I put that in the blood altar, that should get us a soul snare. It did. And then over here, let's do the same thing that we did earlier. I'm going to pull you off, ideally from the top there. I guess I've got to get rid of that. There we go. Let's do this, and let's do this. Again, it didn't work. I wonder if I stood too close. I wonder if that's the problem. Let me get just a staggering number of sticks. We've got 17 in there. That's not really what I would call a staggering number. But if I do this, that should get us a good number of sticks. Then we'll throw these back in over here. Perfect. That's going to get us, hopefully, a decent amount of string fairly quickly. Can I take that out without taking the sticks out? The answer is no, but we can throw the rest of those back in and do this as well. It's possible that there's just not a 100% chance, but I thought it was. Yeah, I think I might just need to be further away when I attempt to make it happen. We'll then grab our bone cleaver and, ideally, get ourselves a demon will. So this says quality is 2.26. This is where I'm interested as to how much demon will we actually get here. I don't think the demon will is going to merge with the copper, or at least I hope it doesn't. That got us 135 millibuckets. Okay, that is actually completely fine. I was a little bit worried that that was going to get us 2 millibuckets, because looking in JEI here at the just regular demon will, this stuff right here, it kind of looked like a demon will with a quality of 1 got you 1 millibucket, so I thought that a demon will with a quality of 2 might get us like 2 millibuckets, but it didn't. It got us quite a bit, which is good. So once again, let's steal another cow. Let's stand a bit further back, throw it. That worked perfectly. And then let's make sure this guy just drops his demon will. Perfect. This one is will quality 2.3, although again, I don't think that matters just yet. That should get us over the 200 millibuckets required, and so from there, it's hopefully just a case of grabbing a piece of sand. We can always make more, of course, if we want to, and then we're going to put the sand into the basin. That's 200 millibuckets, fantastic. Pull the demon will over the sand. 200 millibuckets should convert that into soul sand, and once we have that soul sand, we should be able to light it in front of our fan over here to make prismarine. So what I'm going to do, I think we need to put the soul sand down in the ground here. And so what I'll do quickly is I'll put down like a little bit of a floor underneath so we don't lose the soul sand. I don't want to have to make this again, really. And so what I'm thinking here is that if I were to do something like this and like that, we can then hopefully maybe open a trapdoor and then ideally pick up the water, throw down our soul sand, and then if we light that on fire with a flint and steel, which I think we made earlier in the series, we totally did, we should then be able to throw lapis onto here and quote-unquote bulk haunt that lapis, which is just the name of using the fan through this soul fire, into prismarine shards. And once we have those prismarine shards, then we want to look at using the alchemy table. Again, I'm not entirely certain on how we use it. There appears to only be 2 slots. But if we look at the recipe here, it shows 2,304 EMC being required. Again, not quite sure how that works, but if we take the prismarine from over here and I put that in, the Twitch chat is saying we need a collector. So it might be the case that we need to make another one of these to make this work. If that's the case, it's probably a good thing that we did get a full block of amethyst bronze. Apparently we make that and we put it down, and it looks like this collector is going to produce 640 EMC per second, so I assume that's going to kind of slowly add EMC to our EMC network, and then we can use that and kind of spend some of the EMC to convert it. Okay, that makes complete sense. Let me go and get, in that case then, some more of the lightning charges so that we can make another one of these collectors, because everything else, apart from the lightning charge we have, thankfully the lava crystal is not used up, so it is actually for us just 8 more lightning charges for 2 more glowstone blocks. And once we have 8 more glowstone, that finally should be everything that we need. Let me go ahead and make another one of these pink energy collectors. This, I don't think has to go anywhere in particular. Like, I think we could just put this down like here, and it should start generating it. Although, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it does need to go down next to the alchemy table. If I do this, and then I do put the prismarine in, is that gonna work for me? It is. It's getting there. Usually it tells you, like in the top left, how much EMC you have in your network, which I think is how this works. But this is getting there. We just need to get 5 prismarine crystals. We got 1. Let's put 4 more in here. It is a little bit slow, but it is getting there slowly but surely. And other than that, oh no, we need 4 of these. Jeez. Okay, so we need 20 prismarine crystals. That is fine. It's just going to take a little bit of time. All right, and a little bit more prismarine crystal making later. We should have everything we need to make 4 of these sea lanterns, which is then everything, I believe, to make the crafting remote. We do need 2 blocks of gold. That's fine. We've got loads of gold available to us. And boom, we have the crafting remote, which we can then right-click onto the storage network route. And now, no matter where we are in the base, we can right-click and we can access the exact same interface. Again, I'm going to sort by amount descending like this. And so now, going forward, we don't have to run back over to this crafting interface here. We can just open up the remote no matter where we are in the base. And it's possible there might be a remote for it. There is. It's set to I by default. That is overlapped. Let me see if we can get rid of the conflict there. And then if I put this into one of my curio slots like this, I should then be able to press I. I can. I'm going to change that actually, because I am very much so used to pressing Z. So I'm going to swap that to Z, which as always is going to have its own conflicts. That's fine. Let's get rid of you, you, and you. That should be fine though, right? It is. Cool. So now, no matter where we are in the base, all I have to do is press the Z key, or the Z key, and it's going to open up our storage system. And it basically gives us access to that entire colossal chest, no matter where we are in the base. And it essentially makes our inventory this big, because I can just put whatever I want in here, and whenever I want something, I can just search for it, pull it out, and we're good to go. Nice. So chat, next time we'll come back and we'll probably look at doing a couple of different things. We do need to get this sentient sword. We do also need to work towards getting a tier 4 blood altar, which is going to require a bit of work down here. We're going to have to get to the edge of the hidden realm. This is a ritual that allows us to go to the hidden realm, and then we need to get ourselves some saturated tau for the bloodstone bricks, which are required for that tier 4 altar. We also, I think, sooner rather than later, want to look at upgrading this incense altar, you know, setting up a big multi-block structure for that to allow us to even further increase the amount of LP that we get every time we use the sacrificial dagger. And then from there, of course, we can move on and hopefully get ourselves into some Project E sooner rather than later. That's going to make it hopefully tremendously easier for us to get more things like glowstone. We don't have to keep going and making an endless number of lightning charges. We can hopefully just EMC them at some point in the not so distant future. But as always, that is a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Project Sacrifice there.